Hello, fellow human! Welcome back to another Dank Dwarf Slush entitled Parents videos. So what is your opinion on arranged marriage? Do you think it's a bad thing, or you have just been single for too long and think it's great? The first story is posted by Slush. I know this name is taken. How I was almost trapped in an arranged marriage. This is a long read, but I promise none of it is boring, lol. I grew up in a cult that believed, among other things, that women were the property of men, and the children were the property of the parents. So as an unmarried daughter, I was basically a cherished slave. I ran the house, meal planned, cooked, and even homeschooled my youngest siblings, all while trying to homeschool myself through high school. Having grown up my whole life this way, I didn't even know that the law would have been on my side if I had decided to defy my parents and move out when I turned 18. My parents constantly reminded me that, until they gave me away to a husband, I was still their child and would obey them as the mouthpieces of God in my life. One day, my parents told me that they had received a phone call from the parents of another family we knew. Their oldest son had noticed me and wanted permission to court me. So, per protocol, the parents would talk to each other and then each talk to their kids and arrange the whole thing. My mom was beaming with pride, but I thought about it for a bit, and I said I didn't want to do it. My mom's smile disappeared and she cried, "What? Why?" I gave her my reasons, very good ones I thought, but my mom wasn't satisfied and told me I was not allowing God to work in my life, and that I should just obey him and trust that God's will would be done. Being the good girl I was, I relented and said yes. Then followed a week or two of awkward family gatherings between our two houses. Because this version of courtship never allowed the couple to be alone together, I tried to ease the tension by telling funny stories and encouraging other family members to talk, but only received stern rebukes from his mother, who very clearly did not approve of me. Once she said, "We don't believe in practical jokes, so we're not impressed by that story." I mumbled that I wasn't trying to impress them, and they could talk about anything they wanted, but no one did. Another time I was alone with his mom in the living room and she stated, "I only had two requirements on the girl he chose. One, that she came from a good family, and two, that she knew her Bible. And you have both of those, so I'm not going to say anything." I was confused at feeling so rejected when I didn't even want this in the first place. I mean, really? Who was courting who? Then I got a job offer as the church receptionist, and my parents told me his parents has called them again and said that they did not approve of women working outside the home and didn't want me to take the job. We believed the same way, except it was after the woman was a mother. Before she had kids, it was up to her father or husband whether or not she could work someplace else. This being a strange situation where my father allowed it, but the guy I was courting didn't. My parents told me to call him and get his permission too. I thought that phone call went well. He basically said he was not my husband yet, and I should follow my own family's rules. And he didn't mind and was okay with it, so I happily accepted the job. The next day, my parents told me his parents called and canceled the whole relationship. It felt weird to get dumped without ever hearing from the guy dumping me. But it solved my problem, and I moved on a little confused, and definitely not in the mood for anyone else to court me. 2 years later, at 19, I still wasn't married, shocker. And his family thought that meant God was saving me for him. The whole scenario repeated itself, but this time my dad insisted that the guy court him first, so he could decide if he was even good enough for me before my heart got broken again. My dad told them until he made a decision one way or the other, he did not want any of them to contact me and tell me what was going on. The guy decided no contact couldn't possibly mean letters, so he wrote me a 5 pages apology for dumping me 2 years before, and confessing that he had been falling in love with me, and wanted to know if it was worth his time to even get to know my dad. My parents saw his name on the envelope and confiscated the letter before finally deciding it was too late, and they explained the whole thing. I was honestly insulted that a guy I had barely seen in 2 years would say he loved me, but doubt if it was worth his time to follow my family's requirements to court me. Especially after the last time he tried it, his family made me feel like trash. We agreed to meet at a local restaurant and agree on terms of the relationship, and decide if we even wanted to try it again. I sat on one side of the table with my parents on either side of me, and he sat on the other side with his parents on the either side of him. It felt like we had lawyers. His dad immediately started yelling at my dad for denying his son, and saying it was so obvious that I wanted this, and he was holding me back. My dad is a quiet man, and he sat there like an angry stone, while this man yelled at his face in the middle of the restaurant. It got so heated and embarrassing, the guy who liked me excused himself to the bathroom to throw up. While he was gone, his dad also said if we didn't accept his son, there might never be another guy to come along and marry me. This made me laugh because I wasn't that desperate to just accept the first guy to ask. Just because I was scared no one else would. I didn't care if I ever got married or not, even though I didn't dare tell anyone else that. The evening ended with an agreement that we would pick up where we left off, and we thought that meant more courtship. They thought they already did the courtship, so now it was an agreement to get engaged. The mistake quickly revealed itself a few days later when another guy friend I had, new guy, emailed my dad himself and asked permission to court me. My dad told me I should tell the guy I was courting and ask him if I could stay friends with a guy who liked me but who I had rejected. The guy came up with what I thought was a pretty good plan. My dad would tell him I was already courting someone else, and then I could introduce him to some of my other friends. And then maybe he would leave on his own. I thought that was brilliant, and my dad spent the rest of the evening writing a tactful reply to the new guy. The guy I was courting was now aware that I had friends who were not female. Their family believed guys and girls could never be just friends. So I was essentially cheating on him with 20 other guys. He called me the next morning, 6 days after I had agreed to this courtship, and asked my permission to ask my dad's permission to ask me to marry him. Basically, the lamest over-the-phone proposal ever. He said he was in love with me, and we didn't have to get married right away, but that I would just be his, and have a ring on my finger, so no one could take me away from him. I told him I was flattered that he thought he loved me, and I wish I could say I loved him back, but I didn't. It had only been 6 days, and I hadn't even decided how I felt about him yet. His voice changed instantly, and he angrily snapped, asking if I was still talking to that guy who also liked me. I had never seen this side of him before. That's why it should take longer than 6 days to find a spouse, kids. I tried telling him that my dad had only just replied to his email, and I hadn't had a chance to introduce him to my friends yet. And he said, that wasn't the plan. We agreed you wouldn't talk to him anymore. I shut him down and said, whoa, I'm only doing what you told me to do. We're not engaged yet. I talk to lots of guys and it doesn't mean anything romantic. We're just friends. His voice quieted down, but still sounded bitter. And he said, well, if you can't agree to not talk to any other boys and only talk to me, maybe we shouldn't call this courting right now. Maybe we shouldn't, I replied. We agreed that I would take a week to think about it, and call him when I had made my decision, marry him, and forsake all the male friends I had known since I was 5, or cut off the relationship for the second time. I told my parents what happened, and they tried to convince me to not just do what he wanted. But I finally yelled at them for the first time in my life that I was not going to marry anyone I did not love. My dad was angry, but my mom sent me to my room and said we could talk about it later. I had a week after all. I was very sad. The only reason I was considering it was because my parents insisted it was God's will, and I really wanted to do what God said. But at the same time, this family seemed even more strict than my own, and I would also miss all my old friends. There was so much to think about. About an hour later, I got 2 calls from this guy's mother, which I let go to voicemail. I didn't want to talk to her right then. Next thing I know, my little brother came up holding the house phone saying it was the guy's mom, and she demanded to talk to me. She scolded me for a long time saying I had cheated on her son, and that he had called off his work this morning because he was word sick over calling me, and asking me to marry him. She all but called me a tramp because of the guy I was talking to, while I tried to tell her I was not in a relationship with any of them. Guy's mom, you cheated on him. You're in a relationship with every person you meet. Me, but not every relationship is a romantic one? Guy's mom, between guys and girls, yes. For example, my husband is my best friend. and I would never talk to other men, and neither would your mom. Me, oh yes she would. She talks to other men all the time. She's friends with lots of people. Guy's mom, well, I'm shocked. I honestly thought better of her than that. She then demanded to know why I needed 7 days to pray about whether or not to marry her son. Guy's mom, God doesn't take that long to answer prayer. It sounds like you already know how you feel, and you're just too scared to say it. It should take a day or two at most. Me, look, your son agreed to let me have a week, but if he can't do that, the answer is no. Guy's mom, well, let's not be too hasty. I thought, who's being hasty? I wanted a week. She then told me she would go talk to her son and her husband and see what they wanted to do. I hung up the phone and threw it across the room. I had never been accused of anything like that before, and I curled up in a ball and cried. My mom heard me and came to see what was wrong. When I told her everything that horrible woman said to me, and I stayed firmly that I never wanted to see anyone from that family again. She called my dad up, and he was angry for me being accused of being a tramp with all these boys, but told me I was not allowed to make my decision until a week was up, because that was what I had agreed to. I just silently told them they could all think what they wanted, but I knew my answer was no, and it would still be no a week from now. He called the family back and told them none of them were to contact me in any way, shape, or form for the whole week. And when I had made my decision, he would call them and let them know what it was. They were angry, but they never contacted me again. Almost 2 years later, I married the new guy who had emailed my dad. Remember him? Winky face? He was not a member of our cult and taught me how to think for myself. Our courtship looked a lot more like dating than anything else and made a lot of people upset, but we didn't care. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary and we have 3 sons. I feel like I was rescued. TLDR, I grew up in a cult. My parents wanted me to marry some guys I barely knew. I put up with it for way too long until it just got too ridiculous. Well, damn! Congratulations! Not many people find the courage to leave situations like these. And we have here the second story written by u/, AK Ear. Entitled Mom shoves her kid into my classroom and runs. For context, in my late teens and early 20s, I ran a free after-school program for kids out of a community center. The program was for kids ages 8 to 12 whose parents were currently undergoing a messy divorce. We had a sister program next door for parents of the kids. It was part class, part community group, part group counseling. With the kids, myself and another volunteer discussed handling anger, prepared them for joint custody, changes in finances, what alimony and child support were, etc. The class was free. Some of the materials were paid for by the center. And the rest I covered myself. I liked the class and it gave me a bit of padding on my resume. So I didn't mind buying snacks, coloring materials, and prizes for the kids. At the time, we were a few weeks into the class and I had 8 kids who were attending. 8 is a great number because do you know how many things come in packs of 8? It meant I bought stuff in those 8 packs so each kid would have something. And I didn't waste money on spares. So this afternoon, the kids are coming in. And this parent I haven't met with an unknown kid comes by and sort of drops the kid off without a word to me or her child. It's been a few years, but here's the conversation I remember. Me, ma'am? Entitled Mom, what? Me, hi, I don't think we have met. Your son isn't enrolled in this class currently, and you can't just drop him off with me. I was told this class is free. Me, it is, but it's not a daycare. You do have to enroll your child first at the beginning of the term. I can't watch any child who comes by. There are things I need to know like allergies, emergency contacts. I can't laugh. His name? Well, you can ask me right now. Me, I'm sorry, but the class is starting right now, so I can't. But you can enroll him in the next term. You can find information how to do that at Insert Information. Rolling her eyes. I have an appointment. Can't you just take him? For the record, the parents were supposed to be enrolled in the class across the hall, not just use us for free childcare. Me, I can't. Besides, I didn't know I'd have another student today, so I didn't have enough supplies or snacks for him. Oh, he doesn't need any snacks. He won't mind. Me, ma'am, Of course he's going to mind that all the kids eating Nutella snack packs and Carpi Suns, and that all the other kids have workbooks and he doesn't. It's not fair to him. And besides, it's not really safe for me to watch a child that I have no information for. So, you can sign in up for the next term. M gets so huffy. Fine. M grabs her kit and storms off. That was the end of it, or so I thought. A few minutes later, I'm working with the kids, and the other volunteer is setting up our next activity. The door opens a crack, the same kid as before is shoved in, and the door slams. The other volunteer and I share a what the duck look, but I open the door and look out, and an entitled mom is booking it down the hallway. Me, ma'am! M, yelling without turning around. I'll be back in a few hours! Me, never mind, the class is only an hour long. Half running after her. Ma'am, if you don't come and collect your son, I will call the police about an unaccompanied minor. He won't be here when you get back. M stops, signs, turns around and pegs me with a glare. You're being so inflexible. This is terrible customer service. Me, you're not a customer. Please take your son. Entitled mother grabs her kid's hand and starts storming off while yelling. I can't believe you would call the police on a child. What kind of a teacher are you? I'm going to tell your boss about how horrible you were to me and my son. To this day, I wonder if she attempted to talk to my boss about my behavior, or imagining the look on her face when she found out the boss of the program was me. Winky face. That last line really got me. You got me, boss. But you know, truth to be told, you weren't going to call the cops on a child, you were going to call the cops on her. That's it for today, fellow humans. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys next time.